I don't have a single door in my house. Not one. No bathroom door, no bedroom door, not even a closet door. I ripped them all out, hacked them off their hinges with a crowbar, and dragged them to the curb like rotting corpses. My neighbors thought I was insane. One even asked if I was remodeling. I told her I preferred open spaces. She smiled politely and never asked again. But I didn't do it for feng shui or some minimalist lifestyle. I did it because of the cracks, because they peak. It started when I was 13. My mom was working part-time at a convenience store just a few miles away, and my usual babysitter was out of town that weekend. I told her I didn't need a sitter anymore. "I'm a teen now," I said, puffing out my chest, pretending I wasn't scared of the dark anymore. She hesitated. She always hesitated. She worked so damn hard. 3 jobs some weeks just to keep our shitty home. But eventually, with a kiss to my forehead and a call me if anything weird happens, she left. There were leftover slices of pizza in the fridge, and I had my PlayStation. I thought it was going to be the best night ever. I didn't know it was going to be the beginning of the end. I was in my room, controller in hand, headphones on. The world outside didn't exist, just pixels and explosions and the rhythmic click of buttons. Behind me, the closet door stood slightly ajar, like it always was. It never bothered me before, not once. Then the doorbell rang. I paused the game and tilted my head. Maybe it was a delivery. I hadn't ordered anything, but my mom might have. I wasn't tall enough to reach the peephole, so I grabbed a stool from the kitchen and peeked through. No one was there. Weird. I shrugged and went back toward my room. Ding dong. Again. Back to the peephole. Still no one. My heart was starting to pound now. A dull thud behind my ribs. I cracked the blinds and scanned the porch. Empty. I figured maybe a package had been dropped off and the driver was just fast. I cracked open the front door slightly, about an inch, and peeked through, expecting to see a box on the mat. Nothing. But for a moment, I thought I saw something for a split second. A shadow, maybe. Before I could even gather a thought or guess, a gust of wind, sudden and sharp, blew through the house like a scream. The door flew open, nearly knocking me down. The wind felt wrong. It carried a weight, a smell like wet leaves and copper. I slammed the door shut, heart hammering, and went back to my room. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it, the weight of eyes on my back. At first, I thought it was just paranoia. I even chuckled nervously to myself and reached for the controller. Then I noticed the door to my room wasn't fully closed. It was cracked open, just a sliver. And beyond that sliver, the hallway was darker than it should have been. I stared, a full minute, maybe more. Then, a shadow moved, not the way shadows normally move. It pulled back, like something had been leaning into the crack and darted away when it realized I'd seen it. I flung the door open. Nothing there. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress, hormones, too much pizza. Then I turned around, my closet door. It wasn't closed all the way either. There was just enough of a gap. A cold chill rolled over me like someone had run a wet rag down my spine. I couldn't see anything inside, it was too dark, but I felt it. Something was in there, watching, staring. I shut the closet door hard, and suddenly I could breathe again. When my mom came home, I told her about the doorbell, about the wind, about the shadow. She smiled gently, like moms do, and said it was probably a prank. Neighborhood kids, she offered, or maybe the doorbell's shorting out. But she didn't believe me, not really. That was the last night I ever left a door cracked open. But the feeling didn't go away. They say trauma is like a seed. You don't always notice when it's planted. You might walk right past the moment it enters you, dismiss it as something small, a fluke, a glitch in your day. But give it time, let it take root, and it'll grow into something that splits your brain wide open. For me, that seed was planted at 13, and its roots reached out like fingers through the cracks in my life. After the doorbell incident, I tried to go back to normal. I tried to believe my mom when she said it was a prank. I tried to believe it was just wind, or a bad dream, or my imagination. But belief is a fragile thing, and fear is an infection. It started slow. That first week, every time I passed a cracked open door, my stomach clenched. I told myself it was silly. Doors were just doors, but every slightly open one seemed like an eye, peeking, waiting, breathing. It wasn't long before I started closing all the doors in the house. Bathroom, closet, pantry. I even tried closing the door to the laundry chute. Mom laughed at first. "You're finally turning into a neat freak, huh?" she joked, ruffling my hair. I didn't laugh, because it wasn't about neatness. It was about safety. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I remember because school had let out early for a teacher workday. I was home alone again. Mom was picking up a shift at the local diner. I had just made myself a microwave burrito and was walking past the hall bathroom when I felt it. That prickle, like static behind my ears, like the air had changed density. I turned toward the bathroom and saw the door was slightly ajar, just like always. Only this time, I saw it for just a moment, a split second, a hand, not quite human, thin charcoal black fingers wrapped around the edge of the door frame, as if something was pulling itself back into the dark the moment I turned. It was so fast I almost thought I imagined it. Almost. I dropped my plate. The burrito hit the floor with a dull splat. I stared at the door for a full minute. Then I kicked it shut and backed away. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed with my eyes locked on my closet door. It was closed. I made sure of it, but I kept imagining it opening on its own. 1 inch, maybe 2, just enough for something to peek. A few days later, I started making a list. I didn't write it down. I didn't dare, but I memorized it. Doors must be completely shut. If it's cracked open, don't approach until it's closed. Don't look through the cracks. Don't let it see you seeing it. The rules gave me a sense of control. I started enforcing them compulsively. At home, I would go room to room every hour, checking each door. I couldn't focus on TV or games anymore, only the position of the doors. Click, latch, breathe. Then check again, even if nothing moved, even if nothing happened. It didn't matter. The thought of not checking was worse. My mom started noticing. She caught me in the hallway one night around 3 a.m., standing in front of the linen closet, just staring at it. "What are you doing, baby?" My voice was flat. It was cracked open. She furrowed her brows. "So?" I didn't answer. I couldn't explain it in a way that wouldn't sound insane. Because maybe I was insane. Maybe this was all in my head. But it felt real. The fear, the static, the presence. "You've gotta stop this, sweetheart," she said, touching my shoulder. "It's just a door." I turned to her and whispered, "They're watching me." She pulled her hand back like I'd burned her. That was the first time she looked scared of me. After that, things changed. She stopped asking questions. She'd give me space, too much space. We stopped eating together. She worked longer shifts. When she came home, she'd peek into my room, see me hunched in the corner checking the closet latch again, and just close the door quietly behind her. She didn't say it out loud, but I could see it in her eyes. She didn't believe me. She thought I was broken. Maybe I was. I remember one specific day at school. I was 14 by then, 8th grade. We were in the computer lab and I had asked to go to the restroom. The hallway to the restroom was empty. It was one of those old schools where everything echoes. Your footsteps, your breath, even your thoughts. The boys' room door was cracked open. That was normal. But it wasn't okay. I froze. Every cell in my body screamed not to go in. The hallway seemed darker now, too quiet. But I had to pee. I wasn't going to make it home. So I held my breath and pushed the door open all the way before stepping inside. I shouldn't have done that. The moment I stepped in, the lights flickered. All the urinals were empty. All the stalls were closed, except one, the middle stall, cracked open, about 3 inches. I stared at it, then it moved. The door closed the rest of the way, slowly, deliberately, without a single sound. I bolted. I didn't pee. I ran back to class and sat in silence, pale and shivering. The teacher asked if I was okay. I said I felt sick. After that, I started carrying around a small mirror, just a handheld one. Cheap, plastic. I'd use it to check doorways without looking directly through them. I figured if I didn't make eye contact, maybe they wouldn't know I was watching. It helped, for a little while, until the nightmares began. They started simple. A hallway of doors, all of them slightly ajar. I walked forward. I didn't want to, but something behind me forced me to. As I passed each door, something peeked from within. Not full faces, just slivers, eyes, smiling mouths, crooked fingers slowly pulling the door wider as I passed. Sometimes I'd see my mom's eye in one of the cracks, sometimes my own. Once I woke up screaming because the last door opened fully and there was nothing inside, just a void, a hole in the world. But something stepped out of it. By 15, I couldn't function anymore. I missed school constantly, failed tests, lost what few friends I had left. I kept a log in my journal of every door sighting, times, angles, locations. I became obsessed with pattern recognition. If there was a reason the cracks appeared when they did, if there was something I could do to stop it. My mom tried therapy. I sat in front of a nice woman with kind eyes and a clipboard and told her everything. She smiled politely and asked me, "And what do you think the shadows represent?" I stopped going after that, because they weren't symbols, they were real. The worst incident happened a week before my 16th birthday. I had locked myself in my room after dinner. I was doing my rounds, checking the latch on the closet when I heard it, a knock, not at the door. From inside the closet, 3 slow, deliberate taps. I backed away, barely breathing. The doorknob to the closet rattled, once, then stopped. I screamed for my mom. She came running, found me curled on the floor, sobbing, pointing at the closet. She opened it. Nothing inside. Of course, she didn't see what I saw, but I know what I heard. I know. By the end of what I call stage 1, I was alone in every way that mattered. Not physically. I still had my mom, my house, my routines, but emotionally, mentally, I had receded. I lived in my own personal war zone, a quiet battle against something no one else believed in, something that was content to wait, to peek, to remind me it was there. The worst part, I still didn't know what they wanted. They never spoke, never crossed the line, never tried to hurt me. They just watched, and that somehow was worse, because when you're being hunted, you can fight back. When you're being watched, all you can do is wonder, why me? It went like that for years, and for years I thought I had control, that as long as I kept the doors shut, fully shut, I could keep them at bay. But fear is clever. It evolves, it waits for you to get comfortable, and then it widens the crack. I started calling it stage 2 when I was about 17. It didn't announce itself all at once. Fear rarely does. It creeps in, subtle, like a draft from a half-closed door, and you don't realize the cold until it's already inside you. It started with a bathroom door. It was late. One of those nights when you wake up from a dreamless sleep with an urgent need to pee. I shuffled out of bed, half asleep, and made my way down the hall. I remember I was already anxious that night. I'd had one of those doorway dreams again, except this time I saw a silhouette walking behind each cracked open door. Not standing, walking, like it was pacing just inside the shadows, waiting for me to pass. I shook the thought off and rubbed the sleep from my eyes as I stepped into the bathroom. The door was wide open this time, maybe halfway. That should have been safe. I turned on the light and froze. There was something in the mirror, just behind me. Tall, thin, black. It moved the moment I turned around, gone before I could scream. But I felt the air shift. I felt it move. I stared at the mirror for what felt like an hour. My own reflection trembled. When I turned off the light and left the room, I didn't close the door. I slammed it and waited. That feeling, the one I thought I had finally outrun, it came flooding back. The fear had evolved. Now, doors halfway open were just as dangerous. I pulled my old fear journal out from under my bed, started logging again. This time, I changed the parameters. Crack no longer defined by inches, open halfway equal to vulnerable, full open equal to maybe safe, but uncertain. That uncertainty is what began to undo me. When the rules change, but you don't know how or why, your mind begins to rot. I checked every door, every day, multiple times. I stopped trusting knobs. I began nailing boards across doors at night, just in case. But nails don't stop what can move through cracks. And now the cracks were everywhere. By the time I started my senior year of high school, I had no friends left. None. Not because they stopped liking me, but because I made myself impossible to be around. If a door was open in class, I wouldn't enter the room. If someone left the locker room door ajar, I'd freeze and refuse to go in until it was shut. People called me weird, doorboy, crackhead. One kid tried to spook me by leaving his locker open behind me on purpose, just to see if I'd react. I did. I blacked out and punched him in the face. 3-day suspension. My mom cried that night, sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine she never used to touch. "I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered. "You're slipping away from me." I wanted to tell her everything again, but she'd heard it before, and she didn't believe it then. Why would she believe it now? A few weeks after I returned to school, something happened that confirmed stage 2 had fully arrived. I was sitting in history class. My teacher, Mr. Collins, was standing in front of the whiteboard, lecturing about the Civil War. Behind him was the door to the classroom, open just over halfway. I couldn't concentrate. The door kept pulling at my vision like gravity, the crack, the edge. I could not look. That's when I saw it, a hand, thin and long, curling around the edge of the door frame, just resting there, like it was bored, waiting. I stared, unblinking. Then another hand, then a face, not human, long, angular, eyes like pits, mouth stitched with shadow. It didn't look at Mr. Collins, it looked at me, only me. I stood up. Mr. Collins turned toward me, blocking the door for a second. When he moved again, it was gone. No trace, no hand, no face. I vomited in the trash can at the front of the room. My mom was called. I told the nurse I was sick, feverish. But I wasn't. I was just losing my mind. At home, I didn't sleep anymore, or when I did, it was on the couch under all the lights, facing away from every doorway. I'd blocked off most of the doors by now with furniture. The bathroom was always left wide open. One night, around 3:14 a.m., I woke up needing to pee again. The hallway was dark. I reached for the light switch. It didn't work. I stood in the hallway, squinting into the dark, listening. There was nothing. And then, the creak from my bedroom, the closet door. I had barricaded it with a bookshelf, hadn't I? I stepped forward slowly, just to check, just to be sure. The door was open, not cracked, open. A breeze touched my face from inside the closet. Then I saw them, 2 eyes, low to the ground, glassy, pale. They blinked once, and then the door slammed shut without me touching it. I pissed myself. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. At some point, desperation sets in. You stop caring whether people think you're crazy. I went to the library downtown, found the creepiest, oldest section, folklore, urban myths, old occult archives, searched everything for anything that mentioned shadow things behind doors. I found snippets, glimpses, a Norwegian tale about cracklings, spirits who only exist within gaps, an Appalachian myth of the in-betweeners, souls who died during transitions and now live between spaces. A Reddit thread with 13 upvotes and a deleted user. I used to think I was crazy too. Then they stepped out of the crack. Then I knew I wasn't. That was all I needed. I wasn't crazy. I was right. I dropped out of school at 18, got a GED online. My mom didn't fight me. She was tired. She'd taken on more shifts. I barely saw her anymore. And honestly, I was glad, because she never closed doors behind her. She never saw them. She didn't understand that she was putting both of us at risk. I started taping doors shut when she wasn't home, bought a roll of yellow hazard tape and marked every single frame. I left her notes. Please close doors fully. Do not leave cracks. They're looking again. She stopped commenting. I think part of her just gave up. That was until she saw them too. I remember it with razor precision. I was 19. I hadn't left the house in weeks. Mom came home late, around midnight. I was already on edge. The shadows had been active that week. Every corner of the house felt like it was breathing. I heard the front door creak open, and then slam shut. She cursed under her breath. I knew she'd seen one of the tape strips and ripped it off in frustration. Then I heard it, a door creaking open, one after another, down the hallway, soft, deliberate, like they were walking through them. Every door I had blocked, every latch I had sealed, popping open. I grabbed a flashlight and baseball bat and ran toward the sound, heart threatening to tear itself out of my chest. I turned the corner toward my mother's room, and the door was halfway open, just halfway. She was standing there, inside the room, but she wasn't facing me. She was facing the closet, frozen, staring. Mom?" I whispered. She turned her head slowly toward me. Her face was pale, tears streaming. "I saw it," she said. Her voice was small, a child's voice. I saw it in the crack. I stepped forward. The closet door slammed shut. I yanked her out of the room, pulled her down the hall, out of that space, into the living room. We didn't sleep. We sat under the lights until morning. She didn't go to work that day. She started researching with me, talking to me, asking questions. It was too late. But God, it felt good not to be alone anymore. It didn't last. 6 months later, she died in her sleep. Heart attack, they said. But I knew the truth. They'd been watching her too. Once you see them, they never stop watching. Now, I live without doors. None. Not in the bedroom, not the bathroom, not the closets. People ask if I'm some kind of ultra-minimalist or survivalist. Some ask if I'm afraid of the government. They never guess the truth. They never guess I removed every door because of them, because of what hides in the doors. You might be reading this and laughing. You might think I'm schizophrenic or paranoid or just deeply disturbed. Maybe you're right. I don't care anymore. I've posted pieces of this story before, and they always get buried under memes or teenage creepypasta roleplay. But tonight feels different, because they're back, and they've changed the rules again. For the first few years after my mom died, I thought I'd won. The funeral had been simple, empty. I didn't have many people to notify. She didn't either. Her heart gave out one night, and she never woke up. I told myself it was natural, that it had nothing to do with them. I even tried to believe it, but in the days after her death, I kept the doors shut tighter than ever, just in case, because I knew they'd seen her. And once you see them, you're marked. You belong to their attention. That's what they feed on. That's the real horror. They don't kill, they don't hurt, they just watch. And when you see them watching, you're theirs. But like I said, I thought I'd beaten them. I started slow. First, I took the closet doors off their hinges, then the bathroom, then the bedroom, then every room. I even removed the little cabinet doors in the kitchen and replaced them with hanging cloths. I thought, if there are no doors, there are no cracks, no place to hide, no one to watch me. And it worked for a while. I lived like that for about 3 years. 3 whole years without a single shadow, no peeking, no drafts of cold air, no flickers in the corner of my vision. I started to sleep through the night again. I stopped taking sleeping pills. I started painting badly, and I even managed to go for walks after dark. I kept to myself, of course. People were hard, doors were everywhere, but within the sanctuary of my hollowed-out home, I was safe, or so I thought, because peace is never permanent. And they were never really gone. They were just learning, waiting, adapting. It started about 6 weeks ago. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom. There was no door, just an open archway behind me. I liked it that way. No cracks, nothing to fear. But that night, I felt it again, that breathless feeling, that pressure in the room. I turned quickly, no one there. But the hallway was dark, and the angle of the archway created a corner, a shadowed angle, a place where something could stand or peek. I stared into it, heart thumping, and then I saw it, just for a second, a face, no eyes, no mouth, just a shape, a vague suggestion of features. It pulled back when I looked, just like before. They weren't using doors anymore, they were using corners. Since that night, everything's gone to hell again. It's not just doorways, it's anywhere with a corner. The bend of a hallway, the place where my fridge meets the wall, the gap beneath the counter. Even the curtain folds at night. If there's room for something to hide, if there's a place just barely out of sight, they use it. They peek from the sides now. I tried corner mirrors. That worked for about a week. Then I saw one of them standing behind the mirror, not reflected, physically behind it. As if the mirror wasn't a barrier, but a window. They stood there with their head cocked sideways, not blinking, not breathing, just watching. I smashed the mirror with a hammer. It didn't help. Now I see them at the edges. When I turn my head, they retreat. When I blink, they move. They never stop watching. This is new too. Sometimes late at night, I hear whispers from the corners of the room. Not full words, just syllables. Dry, papery voices that sound like skin scraping on tile. They say my name, or at least I think they do. It's hard to be sure when your name is coming from the mouth of a corner. I started leaving lights on 24/7. Doesn't matter. They move through light now. They've adapted. Again. I haven't slept in 3 days. Last night, I tried to shut my eyes, just for a second, and I swear I felt something crawl onto the bed beside me. I didn't open my eyes, not right away, but I could hear it breathing, and then, ever so slowly, I felt fingers resting on my cheek, that same cold static pressure, like their way of saying, "We're still here." When I opened my eyes, the corner of the ceiling was darker than it should have been, and I saw teeth, just floating there, above me, in the space where 2 walls meet. I don't know what to do anymore. I thought I had the answer. No doors, no cracks, no gaps, no watching. But the problem wasn't the doors. It was me. It was the moment I opened the front door and looked through the crack as a kid. The moment I saw them, that was the invitation. That was the baptism. They followed me, changed for me, grew for me, and now they don't need doors or cracks. They just need me to exist. I haven't left my house in months. I've sealed the windows, covered every corner with cloth, rounded off every edge I could find. I even tried painting the walls to remove the hard angles. But paint doesn't matter. Tape doesn't matter. Cloth doesn't matter. They're always there, smiling, leaning, waiting. Sometimes I wonder if this is hell. If I died that night when I was 13 and this is just my eternal punishment. Or maybe I'm the door now. Maybe every time I close my eyes, they're looking through me. If you're reading this, don't look into the cracks. Don't leave the door halfway open. Don't peer around corners too fast. And if you feel them watching, they're always watching, because once you see them, they never stop. And one day, they'll step all the way through